Okay, so we're looking at the liquidity preference theory, all right, and how it relates to interest rate determination. Okay, so the liquidity preference, what it just means when we say liquidity preference, is just that people prefer holding cash than putting their money in investments, basically. Okay, or in securities. You prefer to have your money rather than put your money into investments. Okay, that's what we're calling the liquidity difference. Remember, liquidity is always about having cash on hand. Okay, so in simple terms, people prefer to have cash in hand than investing their money. That's the definition of liquidity preference. Okay, so now we're going to look at the reasons why people want to hold their money, or even basically why people demand money. First reason, the transactions motive. We need money to buy food, pay bills, and for the day-to-day running of our days. We need money for transactions. Okay, that's the transactive motive. Right. The second motive is the precautionary motive. Right. We need money for emergencies. The transactions motive, you need money for daily transactions, okay, paying bills, buying goods. Okay. Then the next one is the precautionary motive, where we need money for emergencies. Okay. Then third is the speculative motive, where you're keeping money so that when an opportunity rises, you can invest basically. Okay, that's a speculative motive where you're waiting for opportunities or chances so that when that chance or opportunity comes in, you can invest your money. Okay, for example, if the interest rate of bonds increases, you would want to invest in those bonds because you'll be getting higher interest payments. All right, because in this liquidity preference theory, our assumption is on two things: money and interest-based securities, which are the bonds mostly. Okay. So with a speculative motive, you're holding your money so that you can get a chance of an opportunity, all right, where you find okay, the interests of bonds have risen, you can now invest. Okay. Even in our daily lives, see the speculative motive. For example, someone can come, no, I'm selling a car at a discount price. You have money there, that's an opportunity. Right? Someone is selling a car at a cheap price. So you now invest that money. Or someone comes to you and says, oh, there's cheap land this side. You have money which you've been holding. You've seen now an opportunity. There's cheap land. You invest in that cheap land. All right. Now here the speculative motive is on the bonds and these other interest-bearing securities. All right. If the bond interests are low, okay, meaning the returns are low from the bonds, you hold your money first. But when the interest for the bonds increases, then you invest in those bonds. Any questions, colleagues? Okay, so those are the three reasons why people demand money or hold their money. Okay, so let me first draw this graph now so that we start seeing these things. You have the On your y-axis, you have the interest rate. On the x-axis, you have the quantity of money. Okay, quantity of money on the x-axis. So first, you've got the money supply curve, which is straight like this. Colleagues, why do you think this money supply curve is straight like this? Meaning it's not affected by interest rates. Why do you think that is so? Colleagues, this is not the time to be quiet. Okay. Mr. Crucial, why is the money supply curve upward sloping like that? Who supplies the money? Or basically, what I'm asking, first I ask, who supplies the money? In Zambia, who supplies the money? No, it's a central bank. They're the ones who create it and supply it, put it in circulation. Okay. So now the money supply is not affected by the interest rate. Okay. That's why we have an upward sloping curve like this. Because it's the central bank that prints the money. All right. Then we have now the demand for money, which is downward sloping like this. Okay. At high interest rates, okay, people are going to start investing in bonds. Okay, because here, as I said, we're dealing with bonds and money and also the borrowing of money from the banks. Those are the three areas we're dealing with. So if bonds are offering higher interest rates, all right, according to the speculative motive, you're going to invest in those bonds. Okay, so people invest in those bonds, demand for money, but the quantity of money will be low because people have invested in those bonds. Okay, at high interest rates, we're seeing here people are going to demand, they're going to start buying these bonds. So the demand for money is going to be low, basically. All right, because they're investing in these bonds with high interest rates. But if the bonds are offering low interest rates, demand for money is going to be high because people are not going to invest in those bonds. They're going to wait for the interest for the bonds to rise, so they would rather not invest in them and keep their money. Any questions, colleagues? So the interest rate is determined when the money supply equals the money demand here. Okay, this is the interest rate. Okay, when the money supply equals the money demand. So this graph is very important. Why? Because it also illustrates monetary policy. Okay, apart from the liquidity preference theory, it also illustrates monetary policy. All right, colleagues, what is monetary policy? What is the definition of monetary policy? Madam Juliet? Mr. Crucial. Hey, colleagues. Madam Namakao. Hey, colleagues. Madam Justina. Oh, this is how the central bank tries to influence the economy through the money supply, basically. Okay? The central bank of the nation tries to help out government in influencing the economy through the money supply. Okay? The central bank, for example, let's say if the economy were experiencing a lot of inflation, there's high inflation in the economy. People are spending, so prices, there's a lot of money circulating, people are spending, so prices of goods and services are going up. Okay? So, what the central bank can do if they see that, okay, inflation is up and we want to lower spending within the economy, they can reduce the money supply. Okay? They can reduce the money supply. Let me show you what happens when the central bank reduces the money supply. Okay. If they reduce the money supply, this curve is going to shift to this side here. And what happens when it shifts? We're going to see interest rates rising. Okay. Interest rates are going to rise. Meaning, government and businesses, when they try to go and borrow money from the banks, even you as a citizen, if you try to go and borrow now money in the bank, you find now the interest rate is high. The cost of borrowing has gone up. All right. So that will make government, businesses, and people stop borrowing excessive. Okay. Will borrow less. So if businesses and government borrow less, then they're going to also spend less. Because remember, if businesses borrow, they invest in expansion, buying new equipment. All right. So if a business is investing in expansion, it means it's opening up a new plant somewhere. It's going to hire new people. Those new people are going to be earning salaries, meaning income levels are going to increase. Okay, if there's many businesses doing this, many businesses are investing within the economy. All right. Find now people are getting employed. As people are getting employed, now they're earning salaries. As they earn their salaries, they start spending. So it means now there's more expenditure going on in the economy. So price levels are going up. So if interest rates increase, all right, it means the cost of borrowing will be high. So those businesses that want to continue borrowing and spending, they're going to be reluctant. All right, they might pause some projects. All right, pause expansion uh, goals. All right, and they hold off on their spending. Okay, even government, it can also ease when it's expenditure. Okay, because also government, remember when government is spending, people are also getting hired. And as people are getting hired, more money in their pockets, more money in people's pockets, they start spending. So the economy is going up. Okay. Yes. Any questions on what I've just explained? Okay. Then, for example, if the economy is going under a recession, okay, the economy is slowing down, people have lost jobs, there's less spending within the economy. What the central bank can do is, let's say we're here at equilibrium, then they can increase the money supply. Okay. When they increase the money supply, it drives down interest rates now. Okay. So here what we can see is the money supply is the one that's affecting the interest rates here. Okay. It means now interest rates are low. So now businesses and government can come and borrow more. And also people. You can now borrow since interest rates are low. It means now you can borrow more. So when businesses now start borrowing, government is borrowing, they start spending. Okay. And as they are spending, it means people are getting hired. All right. And as people are getting hired, it means even unemployment levels start reducing because now people are getting hired. All right. And as they get hired, they're earning salaries. So when they get back, they start having salaries, now they can spend. So that means now the economy is now running now. Because remember, what runs the economy is the circulation of money. Okay, that's why during COVID times, a lot of economies were under a lot of pressure because during lockdown, businesses closed, people were also confined. So it means spending was also going in many countries was dropping. So governments had to find ways to at least keep spending going through the economies. Was a lot of economies would have gone down. Yes. Any questions so far? Okay. So now let's go. There we're looking now at the overall economy. Okay. Now let's go back to the money markets. Okay, where bonds are traded. Remember, colleagues, interest rates and the prices of bonds have an inverse relationship. Interest rate, let me put this in. The interest rate and the price of a bond have an inverse relationship. Colleagues, do we know why this is the case? Why do interest rates and bonds have inverse relationship? Colleagues, sure, sure. By now, you should have at least, you would have, even in assignment one, I think there was a question based on, after interest rate determinations, there was some question where it was asked about these bond prices and interest rates. I believe you researched and you saw, oh, bond prices and interest rates have an inverse relationship. Do we know why this is the case? Okay, mathematically, all right? If you want to find the price of the bond, it's the present value of the interest payments of the bond and what will be paid when the bond matures. Okay. So when you're getting the present value of something, all right, if you increase the rate, all right, what happens is the present value goes down. So in this case, the present value is the price of the bond. So if you increase the interest rate, it will drive the price of the bonds going down. Okay. When we look at bond valuations, I'll show you this formula and everything. Okay. But just remember, the price of a bond is the present value of the bond's future payments. So when you increase the interest rate, because these bonds are discounted at their interest rates. So if you increase those interest rates, it means the price of the bond is going to go down. Okay. So, and also another way to illustrate this is like this also. For example, if you're currently holding a bond that is offering an interest of 10% right now, right? Let's say you're holding a bond. Okay, you're holding a bond with interest of 10%. Okay, and the central bank has reduced the money supply, meaning interest rates have now increased, meaning even the bonds that will now be issued, the new bonds that will be issued are going to be offering higher interest rates. Right? So let's say new bonds now come out. The new bonds are offering 15% interest rate. So, colleagues, you who's holding a bond of 10%, are you going and you want to sell it? And people are aware there are now new bonds that are giving 15%. Are you going to how are you going to sell this bond you're holding? Are you going to increase the price of this bond? Are you going to lower the price of the bond? Yes, we start with Mr. Crucial, right? New bonds have come out offering 15% interest, and your bond is offering just 10%. Now you need money today and you want to sell that bond. Are you going to increase the price of that bond, or are you going to reduce its price? Yes, you have to reduce the price so that at least the one who's buying it, okay, because they are aware that there are higher bonds being offered. So um, they'll know, so they'll just have to pay a lower price for yours. You want to attract them, okay? Then again, so have you seen the interest rate has gone up, the price of your bond has gone down. Okay. Then let's say again, maybe let's say let's say you're here, you're holding a bond right now that's offering interest of 10%. The central bank has increased the money supply. Interest rates have gone down, meaning the new bonds that will be issued out will be offering lower interest rates. So, for example, now the new bonds offer 5%. Okay. So, you with a bond of 10%, your bond is now attractive now. It's more attractive than the new ones there. So, if you want to sell it, you can increase the price now because your bond is offering higher interest than the other bonds. Okay. So these interest rates here also are going to affect the bond market in terms of prices of bonds. Okay. Yes. Is that a question? Yes. So this is the third interest rate determination theory there, liquidity preference theory. Okay. Where the interest rate is determined where money supply equals money demand.